I'm very confident when I say a majority of Americans certainly do not want a repeat of the 2020 election. And lucky for everyone, we get to kick off this show talking to someone who helps elections become more secure day by day. It is with great thanks to the hard work of those at the Public Interest Legal Foundation and several other nonprofits and law firms that are carrying out strategic election security and reform work every single day. So here to dive into the nitty-gritty and give us a health report on the state of our election system ahead of the 2024 presidential election is J. Christian Adams, the president and general counsel of the Public Interest Legal Foundation and a Trump-appointed commissioner to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. J. Christian, we are honored to have you here, sir. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, I want to start off with this complaint filed in Wisconsin against the clerk. I believe there are 3 folks who it is being filed on behalf of. Something very smart that was enacted where if someone comes and they vote on election day and they register that day, after the election, a postcard gets sent to the address that they used to register. And if the postcard comes back undeliverable, that could be an indication of fraud, and then they investigate. But it seems like the clerk isn't really on board with that. Tell us what's happening.
Right. And it's called same-day registration, something that exists in a bunch of states. And there's the problem with same-day registration, of course, is you don't know, in fact, if they're eligible to vote. Well, that's what Wisconsin law does, is they require a verification mailing. And if the mailing bounces, the DA is supposed to investigate and possibly prosecute. Well, what's happening across Wisconsin, in shock, we've never heard this before, they're not following the law. And that Green Bay's clerk is not doing what the statute says she's supposed to do. So the Public Interest Legal Foundation is representing Wisconsin citizens to try to get this fixed and get her to follow the law that's meant to make our elections more secure.
I want to just get a temperature check from you, because especially in the 2020 election, we saw a lot of fraud, especially in swing states, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin. There have been some things that have changed. There have been a few laws that have passed, efforts to make the election a little bit more buttoned up. Temperature wise, are we doing okay heading into the 2024 election? And what are the states that you're most concerned about?
Well, we're doing a lot better. Let's start with the bad news. I'm terribly concerned about Nevada. Nevada has got the worst system of election in the country, where they automatically mail ballots to every registered voter, not the people who requested it, but every registered voter. Now, Public Interest Legal Foundation has been in Nevada documenting a lot of the addresses where these are going to. They're going to casinos, strip clubs, head shops, vacant lots, abandoned mines, some very bad places. So I'm worried about Nevada. On the other side of the ledger, there's been improvements in places like Georgia. Even Pennsylvania has had some improvements. I'm worried about Michigan. Michigan is run by the most ideological Secretary of State in the country, a militant leftist named Jocelyn Benson. I'm worried about Wisconsin for the reasons we talked about.
Yeah. Ooh, Michigan scares me. We've had some guests on recently from Michigan, and that is a frightening scenario. I wanted to ask you about your latest article about legal aliens voting. It's called Aliens Voting. We've seen the invasion of our border. Are we going to stop the invasion of our voter rolls? And you hone in on something that we have here in California, Motor Voter, and a lot of other states have this as well. First of all, how many states utilize Motor Voter, and also how many illegal immigrants in this country do you think are actually voting?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, 44 states are subject to Motor Voter. We've done a lot of research getting the data, the real numbers as to where the aliens and non-citizens are coming from that are getting on the voter rolls and voting. We have lawsuits in Pennsylvania. We've been litigating this issue in North Carolina. We won a case in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. The largest group of people who are foreigners who are getting registered and voting are green card holders, people who are here legally but getting on the voter rolls, usually because of the DMV motor voter process. They end up registering to vote when they go to get a driver's license. The second biggest group are students. Student visa holders are getting registered to vote. The last group, with not as many actually, are illegal aliens, people who are, like you showed on that B-roll, climbing the fence. There aren't as many of those. So it's mostly the green card holders.
And I want to ask you about another aspect of illegal aliens voting, because even if none of them voted, because of the ways that they are counted in states, especially as we run a federal census, a national census, I've heard numbers as small as 12 and as large as, I think, 35, as far as how many extra congressional seats across the country there are now because of illegal immigrants being residents in these states. Do you know what the real number is?
Yeah, you're in the right neighborhood, but there's a solution to this. The solution is in Austin, Baton Rouge, Tallahassee, Columbia, Atlanta. The solution is, when you do redistricting, use CVAP, citizen voting age population. Don't count aliens. These are the decisions being made in state capitals. And I've been urging for a very long time, even back when I was at the Justice Department, that use of citizenship numbers should govern redistricting and apportionment, not total population. And there was a Supreme Court case called Evanwell a couple of years ago, it's probably more than a couple now, that says states have the ability on their own to decide to stop counting aliens when they do redistricting. Now, how many states have done that? 0. No state has said we're only going to count citizens. The solution's in state capital.
Yeah, well, I mean, if Republicans say we're not going to count illegal immigrants, states that typically vote Republican, but Democrats say we are going to count them, then we're even further along this terrible process than we were before. So I guess it's a situation where they all, until Democrats stop counting them, or Democrat states, Republican-run states have to as well. I want to move into something that I know you're very concerned about. I'm kind of concerned about it. I should be more concerned about it, but I'm not, because I live in California and we already pretty much have a form of this anyway with jungle primaries. Ranked choice voting is wreaking havoc across America. There are a number of states where Democrats are trying to wrestle it into their election system as well. For those in our audience who don't understand what the dangers are of ranked choice voting, can you just kind of give them a primer?
Yeah, it's where you basically rank everybody ahead of time, and then you have fake elections. You have runoffs that happen only on the computer and not in real life. And eventually you find a winner. It's cost seats in Alaska. It's cost seats in Maine for Republicans. It is a contrived system that, frankly, I believe has a racially discriminatory impact, and it impairs the ability of people with disabilities to have a meaningful vote. Whether or not a court would agree with that remains to be seen. But it's a stupid system. Now, the good news is I don't think it's getting very far. I think it's kind of dying, that they've had to reverse election results because of it. And so I'm confident that the slowdown in popularity that you have seen is only going to get more pronounced, and we're not going to have to deal with it, hopefully.
I think you're right. And I think that part of that effort is going to be voter driven, because I was in Alaska shortly before they imposed ranked choice voting when Sarah Palin lost. And practically every voter I spoke to was conveying the fact that they don't want to have to learn about 60 different candidates. They don't want to have to go on their ballot and rank every single one. It's a complete waste of time, and it almost always benefits Democrats. Is there ever a time when it benefits Republicans?
Well, it depends on what kind of Republican. A lot of the people who wanted it tends to help establishment people with high name ID, unless it tends to hurt people on the ideological sides, the fringes. I don't want to say fringe, but you get the point. It tends to help the establishment.
Okay, I want to shift over to something that your organization has been focusing on. And I was blown away by this number. Since the inception of your organization in 2002, 602 ties in elections have happened across America. This is appalling and terrifying, because we know what typically happens when there is a tie. How do we fix this?
Well, look, the Public Interest Legal Foundation has what's the tie vote database. We have collected all the tie votes in contests around the country, for the last couple of years. And that's when you talk about 600 ties, we're not going back to the War of 1812. This is just recently. These are the tie votes. So the next time somebody tells you, oh, what difference does it make if there's an improper ballot? Or if somebody says to you, what difference does it make if I don't vote, which I'm more afraid of right now than the other problem, then you go to the Public Interest Legal Foundation tie vote database and you say, look how many times one vote would have changed the outcome of this election. And what can we do about it is vote. Don't stay at home. If everybody voted in this country, we would have a better country, not because just everybody's voting, but because I know how they're going to vote. And this is a center-right country that believes in the Constitution, believes in America. And if everybody was registered and voting, we'd be better off.
Boy, oh boy. I wish that I could take your organization and explode it by 10,000 because you guys are doing such great work. And I hope that you have a lot of success in these court cases leading into November, because considering what happened in 2020 and the doubts that everyone has about it, it's going to be, like I said in the intro, it's going to be hell to pay if that happens all over again. Christian, you continue to show why the Public Interest Legal Foundation is on the front lines and should be trusted and appreciated throughout all of your work. Thank you so much for being here.